Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Prime Minister, does he stand by all of his government statements and actions?
Yes, and especially today's announcement that the government will fund $24 million to Gumboot Friday, enabling them to deliver counselling sessions to more than 15,000 young people. And I do want to thank the Deputy Prime Minister of New Zealand, the Right Honourable Winston Peters, for his tireless advocacy to securing this funding. That's right. And ensuring that Kiwis with mental health challenges can access support earlier. We know community organisations like Gumboot Friday can do so much more to solve the big societal challenges we have in New Zealand, and we're going to keep devolving to the grassroots to get better results for every single New Zealander. When it comes to mental health, this is a government that's walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Question then. Is it correct that the government's $2.9 billion tax breaks for landlords would pay for up to 580,000 first home grants?
Wow.
Well, I want to say to that member, we got exactly the same advice that he received when he was Prime Minister and he was in government. And that was that interest deductibility will put downward pressure on rents. We are serious in this government that we want to make sure we expand the rental supply of houses. And so we're restoring interest deductibility, we're pulling back the bright line tests, and we're balancing up the tenancy laws. It's a good thing. It'll put downward pressure on rates. We got the same advice that the member got, and it said that interest deductibility, dealing with that, would actually put downward pressure on rents.
Honourable David.
Supplementary question.
David Seymour.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr Speaker. How would the Prime Minister characterise the policy settings and circumstances of housing supply in New Zealand when it was sworn in, and what does the government plan to do about that situation?
Well, I thank the member for their question because as we inherited a situation where house prices had gone up 50%, rental prices had gone up $180 per week. The social housing register had quadrupled. And that was after 6 years where you had your go and they didn't actually achieve any outcomes.
Question, Mr Speaker. Have the number of building consents for new houses issued increased or decreased since he became Prime Minister?
They've gone down because of the economic cycle, because of the market. But I would say to you, this is a government that's going to open up more green fields. And I just encourage the member, why doesn't he support our fast-track legislation? Because we based it off inspired thinking from David Parker, who would make a great leader of the Labor Party one day, but he had inspired thinking and we build on it, and I encourage the Labor Party to support our fast-track regulations. I just say to the member, we are a government that's not afraid to make tough choices. We have inherited a fiscal situation left behind by the previous government. What I don't understand is how the masterminds that brought us Kiwi Build ended up increasing the house prices 50%, added $180 to rents, average weekly rents, and actually put 4 more people on the social house waitlist. I thought the Labor Party cared about low and income middle working New Zealanders.
Supplementary question, Right Honourable.
Could I ask the Prime Minister, if savings were going up by a massive 50% plus, wouldn't it mean that a person aspiring to buy their first home would have to be saving at that level as well? That's 50% plus. And does he know anybody in this House who can do that at that speed, including anybody in the Labor Party sitting over there with all their bright ideas?
Absolutely not. But what I can tell you is we have a government here that is absolutely determined to deal with our housing crisis. The Labor government had 6 years to deal with it, failed to achieve anything.
Marama Davidson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Prime Minister, does he stand by his government statements and actions?
Yes, I do, and especially our announcement today that we will fund 1,500 more social housing places from community housing providers. The track record from the last Labor Greens government was abysmal. Billions of dollars spent, only to peddle misery with more children growing up in motels and sleeping in cars. We have a comprehensive strategy to fix that mess. We're fixing the rental market, we're fixing KO, and we're funding more places for community housing providers so that Kiwi kids can grow up in a house, not a motel.
Does the Prime Minister agree with the Ombudsman on the fast-track approvals bill that, quote, when you get a bill like this that creates enormous executive power, there is ever more need to have a check and a balance unless it's matched by oversight and accountability. I think democracy itself is the loser, end quote.
Exaggeration. Well, what I'd say to that member, and we've had this conversation many times before, is that we need modern, reliable infrastructure in New Zealand. That is how we will make this country more prosperous. We need to get things done. And that means cutting through the red and green tape that's getting in the way. It means making sure that we take David Parker's inspired thinking around a fast-track law and we build it out so that we can get things done. And so I just say to the member, we welcome the Greens' support so that we can get renewable energy projects built quicker. But the big point is this, is we are going to stop the talking and we are going to get things done in this country. And I make no apologies for that. It's what the people of New Zealand expect us to do. It's what we expected to do if we're going to deliver on our climate change goals. We need to get things done and built. And I just say to the member again, please support the bill. If you care about the environment, if you care about climate change, you'd back our fast-track legislation.
Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Will the Prime Minister undertake here and now to have regard to all the comments on the 17 precedented fast-track projects of the last government when he's considering the fast-track process in this government? Remember what the Greens said back then, and will he have regard to it when he's going forward? Which was nothing, by the way.
Thank the member, because again it was inspired thinking from David Parker, who invented a fast-track process. We've taken that, we've put it on steroids so that we can get things built.
Marama Davidson.
Will he, in light of his request for the Green Party's support, commit to no new coal mines, not reopening oil and gas drilling, protecting the conservation estate from mining, and no extinction of native species through his fast-track approvals bill?
I just say to the member, on this side, in this government, we are deeply committed to delivering on our climate change goals and commitments. But again, what we saw, and when the discussion that we had last week, would you like me to complete? In the discussion that we had last week, what we saw was that we actually have some energy security risk in this country. Why? Because there was a banning of an oil and gas ban from the Labor Greens. There was no follow-up plan to it. There was a bunch of bumper stickers, headlines and post-it notes. And actually what was needed is we need gas as a transitory energy source so we can keep our energy security in place.
The House is extremely lively today. I just ask people to think just before they sort of get into some barracking about exactly the value to the public that barracking is. Chloe Strawberry.
There's still 8 more sleeps or so until we get to the budget.